Having grown up in Eastern Europe, I have more than a few stories I could share from my childhood. Perhaps the closest call happened when I was 6 or 7 years old. It may only be because of my father's wisdom that I'm able to tell this story today. I was in my room playing computer games when a van outside caught my attention. It was an old white thing that had been parked at the beginning of our street. I remember the guy's face that got out of it. He looked like any other normal guy you might pass in town. Just your average working man. From what I could tell, he was going from door to door, no doubt trying to sell something. Eventually, there's a knock on our door. My father goes to answer it. He opens the door, and the guy from the van is standing on our porch. From what I could overhear, the guy said that he was a home security salesman, and asked my dad if he'd be interested in having some cameras and alarms installed. My dad calmly and confidently told him that we already had a home security system, that it was set up all around the house, and that it was working perfectly. The salesman smiles, says no problem in a friendly tone, and moves along to the other houses down our street. 2 days pass, and I wake up on a Sunday morning to find our street filled with police cars. Like the salesman before, investigators are going door to door, asking people questions. Our turn comes around, and again, my dad answers the door. The officer standing on our front porch greets my father, and in a very matter-of-fact way, tells him that somebody had broken into one of our neighbors' homes and murdered the entire family inside. My dad talks with them for a while. I didn't know what about at the time. My mother sent me into another area of the house, not wanting me to hear about the details of the murder. As I would later find out, all 5 members of the household had been beaten to death with a hammer while they slept. Mother, father, and children. A whole family wiped out. Sometime later, we're watching the television. They start talking about the murder case on the news. Apparently, the killer had been arrested. A man's face flashes up on the screen. 3 guesses as to who it was. My child brain hadn't been able to put 2 and 2 together, but for the adults down our street, the answer must have been as clear as day. It was the salesman. As he went to each house in our street, he hadn't been trying to sell home security. He was scouting for vulnerable homes to target. Our house didn't have any kind of security whatsoever. No alarms, no cameras, no nothing. But my dad instinctively knew not to tell the guy that, and responded instantly. Had he paused for a moment, the salesman may have seen through his lie. Then he might have chosen to pay us a visit that night. The creepiest part to me is that the salesman didn't give off a creepy vibe. He appeared to be just a normal, regular guy. I learned a very valuable lesson that day. When someone comes to your door and tries to sell you home security, always tell them that you already have it, and that it's working perfectly. When I was younger, I went into my bedroom alone to change into my PJs. My mum said I came back and asked her why Peter Pan was at my window and if we could let him in. She of course ran to my bedroom, and sure enough, someone had pulled the screen off my window and had opened it slightly. Needless to say, we moved shortly after that. I was oblivious to what was wrong because, hey, in my eyes, I had just met Peter Pan. My sister and I were having a prank war for like a week straight. Well, since it was my birthday, we agreed to a ceasefire. I had just turned 11, and later that night, I hear my closet door open. Oh, so my sister wants to prank me on my special day, eh? I'll show her, I thought. I know she must have snuck in and forgotten that my door squeaks, so I had an idea. I would get up and push her. I'm a genius, I know. So I slowly get up, and she steps out of the closet. It wasn't my sister, because my sister doesn't have long black hair and scars on her face, and isn't as tall as a grown woman. I wanted to scream, but instead I just froze and silently started whimpering and crying. She puts her finger up to her lips and lets out a shh, opens my window and crawls out. She slowly closed the window behind her, and I never saw her again. At first I thought it was a ghost. Now I'm convinced it was a crackhead or something. Either way, freaked me out for the longest time. When we were really young children, my sister and I were sitting in the back of our family car. In between us was one of my sister's friends, a young girl with blonde hair and rosy cheeks. I don't remember the events leading up to her getting into the car with us, and neither does my sister, but she was there, and all three of us were chatting away as kids do, with our parents in the front, not really paying attention to what we were talking about. Out of the blue, the girl in the middle says, "There's a car following us. There are bad men inside it. They want to hurt us." My sister and I look back at the car behind us. There's definitely two men in the front. Perhaps it's just our overactive imaginations, but they look to have really scary, twisted faces. Well, that, along with the young girl's words, shook us both up, and we started crying and screaming, trying to relay the message to our mum and dad. For a while, they seemed confused and didn't really understand. The car behind us tailed us for the longest time, which didn't help with our nerves. Our crying got so out of control that our parents had to pull over to calm us down. We tried to tell them about the vehicle behind us, but they didn't seem to listen or acknowledge it. After a while of waiting behind us, the car that was following us pulled away and drove past us. Finally, we could relax. Our child minds had just got the better of us. Not long after all that, we pull into our driveway. As I hop out of the car, my sister asks me where my friend has gone. "My friend? What are you talking about? She's your friend," I reply. "Nuh-uh, I don't know who that girl is." That girl in the middle of us never got out of the car. My parents didn't even know who we were talking about. They said it was just the two of us back there, that they hadn't picked up any of our friends. We were left completely confused, but as kids do, we later forgot about it. As my sister and I got older, however, sort of that mid-teenager age, we both learned of an urban legend that circulated in our area. The story went that many years ago, there was a young girl who tried to warn her parents that there was a car following theirs. The parents didn't believe her and ignored her cries. The car followed them home and killed everyone in their house. According to the legend, the young girl appears in people's cars, warning them that they're being followed, trying to save them from the horrible fate that befell her. When my sister and I learned about that story, we couldn't help but think back to all those years ago. We both reminisced about the event, and both had the exact same memory of the little girl. All of our details were the same, down to the color of the car following us, and the twisted faces of the men inside. I work as a summer camp counselor every summer at a sleepaway camp. Although I'm a counselor now, I grew up going to this camp as a camper. This story takes place when I was 12. The camp is basically in the boonies of Missouri, next to a gorgeous river and surrounded by forest. One of the activities at this camp was exploring this cave that was a short drive away. A long-time employee of this camp always takes the kids out to the cave and teaches them about the different cave formations, the salamanders, and all that jazz. We'll call him B. At the end of the caving trip, it's tradition that B takes everyone to the very back room of the cave and tells them a scary story. He leads me and the rest of my cabin to the story room. We're all getting settled down, excited to hear which story he was going to tell. Just as he starts the story, one of the girls who was much younger than us gets scared and wants to be taken out of the cave. B asks one of the counselors to take her out to the front of the cave and wait for us to finish with the story. All of our flashlights are out, and the cave is pitch black. That was to set the ambience for the story, of course. In this darkness, someone says, "I'll take her," and the two get up and leave. B tells the rest of his story to us, and we all head out to the front of the cave. On the trek to the entrance of the cave, he counts everyone to make sure that nobody got lost. Since the two left before the story, we should have been 2 people short. However, the head count revealed we were only missing 1 person. When we got to the front of the cave, the young girl was just sitting on a large rock, playing with some of the mud from the cave. She was completely alone. We all asked her who brought her out there and where they went, and her response was one I'll never forget. "This old woman walked me out. She sat with me and talked for a bit, but then she said she had to go. She just kind of walked off into the forest." Who was that in the cave with us? She certainly wasn't with us when we went in. When I was younger, I remember being told that my aunt and uncle supposedly died in a car accident. They had a head-on collision with a pickup truck. The 2 cars and all the damage was there, but their bodies weren't. The car didn't catch on fire, and the windshield wasn't broken enough to show that they had been ejected. They were just gone. My uncle's wallet was found by a guy mowing someone's yard 23 miles away, about a month later. I was on a school trip in Wales and was walking from the toilet to our bunk room. One of the teachers on the trip with us was called Mr. Yates, a real hit with the kids since he was pretty lenient and upbeat, the kind of adult you could just stop and chat with. As I walked past the room Mr. Yates was staying in, I overheard him talking. I assumed he was on the phone or chatting with another teacher. For some reason, I stopped and listened. It's out of character for me to eavesdrop, but this time I just felt compelled. All I heard was, "It's time to go now." I know for a fact this was at 6 p.m, as a group of us were scheduled to go night rambling with another supervisor. Basically a leisurely walk in nature. I figured Mr. Yates must be coming with us on the ramble. Thus, I moved on to the bunk, expecting to talk with him in a few moments. But Mr. Yates didn't come with us on the walk. He must have been talking about some other event, I assumed. But nobody saw Yates that night. The next morning, we found him dead. I'll never forget the scene. He was sitting up in bed, eyes open, facing the door as we walked in. After investigating, the coroners determined that he died at 4 p.m, before I had heard him talking. The last call he made on his phone had been around midday. To this day, my friends still think I got the timing wrong, but I know exactly what time it was because of our scheduled ramble. I was laying in bed one night. It's pitch black, apart from the light creeping under the door from the landing. My mum was actually with me in the same room, as we had only just moved in, and she was sleeping on the floor. I look up, and the door slowly creaks open, and slowly an old woman peers around the door, looks at me, and goes away. I just thought I was in a nightmare, and turned around real fast and went under the covers, hoping I'd wake up. Then I will never forget what my mum whispered to me. "Did you just see someone peer around the door?" Safe to say, we didn't sleep a wink that night. I was 5 or 6, spending time at a safari lodge in East Tsavo. It was just after sundown, and everyone was gathered to watch giant porcupines, I think. Being quite young, I got bored. There was another little Irish girl, maybe 7 or 8. We went off to the side, away from the people. I don't remember exactly what led up to it, but she asked me if I trusted her and wanted to see something. I said yes, and she told me to close my eyes, then open them. The world was different. Everything was silver and gold, and there were no other people. We were in a softly lit gold grass field with silver dewdrops, and when I looked at her, she just smiled and said, "I know, it's beautiful." Then it was over. The viewing was over, and we went back to our world, and that was that. But the memory, the beauty, has stayed with me for over 20 years. I hope one day I can visit again. Hi guys, Lazy here, and thank you very much for listening. Well, it's been a while since I've made one of these videos where I do a lot of short stories rather than a few long ones. So hopefully you like the change of pace, and if you did, be sure to smash that like button or I'll smash you. Coming up next, I was thinking of doing a creepiest Wikipedia pages video again. It's been a while since I made one of those, but last time you guys seemed to like it, so hopefully you will again. I do say hopefully a lot, don't I? Oh well. Anyway guys, I will hopefully see you over on that video, and if I do, well, thanks again for joining me. Until then, stay spooky, and remember, the best things happen in the dark.